Hello and welcome to Matters Arising. Of course, this is your one and only current affairs program that treats everything in our polity and bringing you in a very dicey manner. When I mean dicey manner, I'm talking about looking at the news behind the news. Of course, we'll tell you the news and we'll look at the news behind the news. My name is Charles Bassey and I'll be your host on the program today. And as we move on, we'll have a guest in the house who will be analyzing most of the stories with me in a manner that we would be able to get to know the news behind the news. Once again, welcome to Matters of the Moment. We'll go on this short break, but before we go on the break, let me give you a little teaser of what we'll be discussing about. We'll talk about politics. And talk about politics today, we're going to be talking about some defections, particularly in Delta State. One of the top guns in the PDP in Delta State, particularly a senator, has jumped ship to the ruling APC. That's what we heard on the news. But in Matters Arising, we'll be talking about really why he jumped ship, or why you think he joined ship. From there, we will be going to Abuja, where we'll be looking at a very serious matter that has been arising. And what's that matter? The issue of demolitions. Of course, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, talking about Nyesom Wike, had been in the news for the wrong reasons, or perhaps maybe the right reasons, because he's trying to bring back the master plan of the Federal Capital Territory. But to some others, he is a land grabber. We will bring you the news behind the news, and that's on Matters Arising. I'm sure you will not want to leave without having to hear something beyond just the demolitions. We're going to talk about demolitions and government acquiring land. We'll take you to Akwa Ibom State, where there was a recent case of demolition of houses by government agents, precisely a Ministry of Land, which claimed that the land belonged to the government. Now, we'd like to know, when does government collect the land? We would like to know, when does government take land from its people? We do know by the Land Use Act, government has control of the land. But are there procedures before you take the land? Does government just go about demolishing houses to render people homeless? Especially at a time when we have a very large housing deficit in our country. All right, we shall also go to the continental scene and pitch our tentacles at Congo. Democratic Republic of Congo, one country that is so rich in Africa, like many other countries. You know, Sierra Leone is rich in diamonds, South Africa in gold, Zaire, which is the Congo Brazzaville and all of that, rich in diamonds and copper and all of that. But this very rich country has very many poor people. And the result is there's a big social gap that has brought about a social imbalance in the economy. And what do you see as one of the major challenges that may bring to the society? That's crime. Now, because of the high crime rate in that country, particularly armed robbery, the government of Congo has gone tough on armed robbers. And then most recently, we heard that 102 men have been executed in one day, and another 48 to be executed thereafter, and yet another 57 to be executed. I don't know if they've been executed at about now you're watching this broadcast. But all the same, the news behind the news, it's not just about the caught armed robbers and put them in detention, put them through a trial and they were convicted and maybe to be shot or hanged. The news behind the news is what led them to the criminality. Is the socioeconomy good enough in a very rich country? Is the criminal justice system and human rights up to date in that country to the extent of saying, oh, they are really dying for their crimes? All right, we won't talk much. Then we will be going to the United States of America. Of course, Matters Arising will not pass by without talking about America. There's a new sheriff in town. Would I say new? Yes, new. He was there before. He was out and then he's back. We're going to be talking about what that portends to Africa, the wider global community, and particularly what it portends for Nigeria. Don't go away. My name is Charles Bassey, and I'll be your host on the program, taking you into all this with my analyst in the house. It's Matters of the Moment. Don't go away. Join us shortly after this break.
Matters Arising. We don't just bring you the news. It's the news and the news behind the news. A sectorial analysis of stories from economy, politics, environment, education, economy, agriculture, and all sectors of the social economy. Matters Arising. Not just news, but the news behind the news. Only on West Television.
Welcome back. It's good to have you back. And very quickly, I'll go straight to introduce my guest. My guest today is a very, very exciting, cerebral young gentleman. He's an activist to the core and very versed in issues that have to do with crime, security, and of course, he talks very strongly about issues in the social economy. And of course, that's why we have him here. Let's welcome Victor Oj. You're very welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you.
It feels good to be here.
That's interesting. Well, Victor J is my guest today, and we'll be talking about these issues we mentioned. Let's start, first of all, from home scene. Let's talk about politics. Most recently, it's not new. We've had instances where people jump ship anyhow, you know, and of course there are laws with regards to jumping ship. You lose your seat, and of course, and all of that. But we've not really seen anybody losing seats so far, even when the laws are there. They just jump ship. When you don't get a ticket here, you move up to that place. What do you make of all this, and against the essence of the real essence of democracy which we practice?
You know, in recent times, our political parties, despite having fine constitution, but they all lack ideology. They are not driven by an ideology. If you can recall the era of People's Redemption Party.
Yes, the PRP of Aminu Kano.
Aminu Kano.
It had a Talakawa focus.
Balarabe Musa.
That's right.
Dr. Shego Shoba. You know, these men were driven by an ideology.
Awolowo, the UPN, you know, we understood.
Regions. We are talking about basic infrastructures. We are talking about healthcare system. We are talking about education for the grassroots, because they believe that if they can affect the local government, the grassroots, that development should start from the grassroots. And that is why you see politics is all about grassroots. Politics is all about affecting the lives of our people
Down there.
down to the ward, down to the units. But today that is no longer the case. It's driven currently by goons. We're having factions. We're having political party inside political party. That is what we are seeing.
No, but it's not a collective.
When their personal interest is not protected.
Exactly. So it's not a collective interest. I was about taking that off.
It's no longer an ideology, because if it was an ideology or ideological driven, your personal interest will not come in. It is the goal, the constitution of the party. That is
The philosophy of the party.
The philosophy, that is what is going to be driving the party. But today that is no longer the case. That's why you see there is migration, there is exodus.
From one party to the other.
One party to the other.
Yeah, because I always ask a question. If you have a strong philosophy in the party, it will be very difficult for you to leave one party to the other. For instance, if I'm in a church, maybe I'm in a Christian church, and because they didn't make me an elder, I get angry and go to a shrine and take a eldership position in a shrine. That sounds odd.
That's because you are not principled.
You're not principled. So you can just jettison your church and then go to where you worship an idol because you failed. And then maybe you're an idol worshipper and they didn't give you the chief priest position. You now go to Islam and say, look, they made me an imam, I'll be there. So there's a possibility that even where you're going to, you're not really having a...
It's still the same coin.
There's still parochiality. There's still parochiality.
It's still the same coin, but different parts of it or sides of a coin.
All right, having said that, and we have made that very clear, we've set the tone. We're going to be looking at it from this perspective. Let's get back to one of the most recent defections, Delta State. Senator Ned Nwoko has been one of the grounding fathers of PDP in Delta State, and of course, when we've had, Omar Agege, causing a little tsunami at some point and taking a little people away from the APC. We had Greater Buru and all struggling to get the opposition working. It wasn't really working because the PDP was strong. But in most recent times, we've had people now jumping ship. And one of the most recent is Senator Ted Nwoko. Why do you think he would have wanted to jump from the PDP, where he had traditionally been, and where he had actually gained the ticket to be a senator representing his people, and now moving on to the APC? What are the things behind this?
According to Bush Radio, he feels that his principles, his personality is being downtoned. He's not getting his privilege or privileges as a senator of Delta North.
In PDP or as a senator?
No, in PDP.
In PDP, okay.
He feels that there is a circumvention that he is going to be a one-tenor senator, of which, from his comments, you will see that he has an ambition to go for a second tenor. And he has seen it that there are a lot of dispassionate actions towards him. So, as a politician, definitely he's going to...
He's being proactive, you mean? He's
going to fight back, and that is what we have seen him doing recently when he went to his community at Idumoje, Ugboko, to inform them that he's going to be migrating to
the APC.
To the APC.
But let me ask you a question. If really he is to serve the people, democracy is government of the people, for the people, and by the people, if we're going by that philosophy of what government tells us in our secondary schools and in the universities, the people will have a say on who should be their senator. Does it really matter if he has to leave the party? If the people want him, why won't he remain in the party and test the ballots?
You know, from what we are seeing and from his reaction, he is seeing it that he stands a better chance
in the other party
to work with the ruling party in Nigeria. And owing to the fact that President Tinubu has a history, he's a man that has never lost in his life. President Tinubu, as a governor, he was able to colonize the entire southwestern governors and states. He had so much influence. He even crossed the southwest and came to the south-south. I'm talking about Edo State. It was President Tinubu back then. He was, I think he just finished his second tenure when Adams Oshiomhole came on board. He was the one that facilitated Adams Oshiomhole to become the governor of Edo State by a judgment from the Supreme Court.
As political leader in APC then?
The PDP, Professor Osumbo, who was a PDP governor. But President Tinubu was so powerful, so influential that he was able to conquer Edo State for Adams Oshiomhole.
But he wasn't the president then.
He wasn't the president,
but a leader in the PDP, the APC.
They were not APC.
National leader of APC.
It should be, I think, AC.
ACN, okay.
ACN, yeah, back then. So you see that.
Okay, within the formation of the APC.
President Tinubu is an expansionist. He's a man that, except you don't know history, and history repeats itself. If you want to know the future, you better go and study the past. The past can give you a prediction. It's like when you watch football, when you know about the Premiership League, when you watch the history of the clubs, when they meet, you see that people predict. They even bet money. So now, when you see the body language of President Tinubu as an expansionist, as a powerful man, and not to talk of now that he is now the president of Nigeria, you will know that he will definitely conquer the south of Nigeria.
So proactively, this senator felt it's better I move there ahead of time. Do you think it's doing it because of the people? Because I'll take you on that, because there were some discussions.
Politics is all about interest.
Whose interest now?
In Nigeria, is personal interest. It is not the people's interest.
Yeah, but Senator Woko we're talking about here came up with something that sounded more like the people. He was, in fact, those were one of the beginnings of his troubles, so to speak, where he said, look, Governor, my dear Governor, we can't have a power plant in our state and then we stay in darkness. I've been trying from that end, you also try from this end. I think those little controversies brought about the beginning of all this brouhaha, you know, and it appears he accused the governor of being not too strong on ensuring that power happens and all of that. And there was a snapback from the media aides of the governor then, and it created some ripples. And the body language of the PDP in the states, of which normally the political party chairman should be the leader. But what we have these days is that the governors are the leaders of the party. If the governor, who is the leader of the party, as it were, now seems to say, look, watch this man. He's thinking that, look, perhaps I may not get a second-term ticket. Do you think those were one of the reasons why he says, look, I better jump ship because I'm not too sure of getting a ticket in this house, which seems to be very hot now for me?
I don't really think. But I know one thing, that President Tinubu is an expansionist. He's a man that he gets whatever he wants. Unless he doesn't want Delta State. Unless, that is the only clause. The worst case scenario, Delta State is going to have a dry vote. And when I say dry vote, they are going to announce any number as the winner for President Tinubu's political party, which is the APC. And they are going to tell PDP to go to court. And of course, you and I know what Nigerian judicial system is all about now. It's all about influence, power, it's all about politics. Because you see that the politicians, the executive, are now in control of the judiciary. The judiciary submits their budget, their benefit comes directly from the approval of the executive, which is very, very wrong.
Very well. In a democracy, because
their cars are bought by the governor,
by the executive,
or by the executive. You will see that there's still politics.
You can't
buy the hand that fits you. And of course, even when the case starts from the tribunal starts from Delta State, the PDP might win while we are in Delta. When it gets to the federal level system, the music will start changing. When it gets to the Supreme Court, it will be another game. So you will see that everybody is shaking. And if you notice, there's kind of an exodus from PDP here in Delta State to APC of late. Because most persons or most politicians, because of their selfish interest, personal interest, they are migrating to the APC on time to occupy their space. The earlier for them,
the earlier the better. So there's this anticipation that the PDP might not hold sway, going by the strength of the expansionist tendency.
Ideology of President Tinubu.
Going by antecedents, yes. The same as the conqueror, so to speak.
He's a conqueror. You don't just assume. And funny enough, President Tinubu, he is one of the most experienced presidents we've ever had in Nigeria. President Tinubu was.
Why do you say so?
Because he was close to Awolowo. And Awolowo was a genius. President Tinubu was with Bola Ige. He was close to Abacha. He was close to, at some point he was close to Abacha. He was close to Babangida. But when Abacha wanted to become, when Abacha became a dictator, they had to flee because now President Tinubu, back then Senator Tinubu wanted democracy to come up. And he was a key player in the Nadeko struggle. He was the key funder, he financed the Nadeko movement. He sponsored likes of Joe Dumaki, Dele Momodu, Rene Shoyinka, a lot of persons that were in the front line of the Nadeko struggle. He funded them back then. And the democracy we have today, if you cannot talk about democracy from 99 or 97, 98, 99 to date,
without mentioning
President Tinubu.
Definitely going by what the Nadeko did in the pro-democracy struggle. Of course, they have a very good place in all that. All right, let's rest up there. We've been able to give you a tip of the iceberg by uncapping some of those issues behind the defection. Now, let's go to the issue of demolitions. Of course, government has been, demolishing structures, taking over lands and all of that, and in some cases leaving many people homeless. Let's talk about that. In Akwa Ibom State, we had a recent one that was very disturbing. But before we go to Akwa Ibom State, of course, I'm passionate about that because I was also a victim where my house was brought down and with my family in it done in a very clandestine manner, and I wondered why they hurry to displace people and make them homeless in the name of government owns the land. And meanwhile, there's no record anywhere of government owning that land or having paid compensations to the owners of the land. But that's just by the way. Let's get back to the issue of Wike and Abuja and tie it with that what we're hearing in Akwa Ibom State. And of course in Delta State we had some packets of it, somewhere along 74 here or so, some property were brought down, and also within the airport area some properties were brought down and all of that. Now let's start this way. At what point do you think government, we do know it's a known fact by the Land Use Act that government controls land and can take it over, but at what point can government say I want to take over this land or we want to take over this land, and what are the procedures? Let's start from there.
The fact remains that the governors in Nigeria owns the land. They are in control of the entire land in each state.
By virtue of the Land Use Act.
It was still this same President Tinubu that won that case. He won physical planning, beautification and tourism, this Land Use Act. It was Tinubu. When Osibanjo was his Attorney General, You see, a lot of people don't really know much about there are a lot of antecedents of President Tinubu. All they know is they say it's a cocaine pusher, it's a drug this. No. President Tinubu did a lot of benefits that people are enjoying indirectly today. That today you can go to Ministry of Lands and Survey here in Delta State and you get your house and plan approved. Formerly it was a federal government business, but President Tinubu was the one advocate. Even today that the IPP, he was the first governor to build the first independent power plant in Nigeria.
Yes, in Ikorodu.
So what I'm saying now is that, of course, the land belongs to, is in control of the governors of every state. The share of O comes from the governor, is assigned by the governor, and the only time that as prescribed by the Land Use Act, when a government or a governor can come to take over a land in the state, is when there is public interest. When maybe the government wants to set up a structure.
Yes, can you explain public interest?
Public interest has to do with possibly the government wants to set up a housing estate at a particular region, or a tourism center, or an infrastructure that will benefit not just the government but the people. So the government will have to, most cases, relocate those persons that are already existing in that particular region, or they are going to compensate them by costing
whatever they have.
Yes,
the value of
the federal government did it recently, some few years ago, here in Delta State. The regions that the second Niger bridge affected, the federal government sent their consultants to go and value measurement. They valued, and they paid those persons that were affected to stay off the second Niger bridge region. So that is a good one from the federal government, because they compensated. There was compensation.
And let's get back. What's happening in Abuja? And like the case in Akwa Ibom with mentioned.
The case of Abuja, Governor or ex-Governor Wike or His Excellency
the Minister of the Federal Capital
Wike is doing a good job per se with respect to following the master plan of the FCT. But then there are accusations against him that he is now circumventing these persons that were affected, these land bankers, because we still have land bankers that will buy a land for 450,000 in year 2000, and in year 2024 want to sell it 450 billion naira, or 10 billion or 4 billion or 5 billion. You know, there are cases like that, and of course the government most times they frown at such acts. That even when the government there in Abuja, you can apply for a land, you know, as low as less than 150,000. The government usually allocates land. I know even in this Delta State, when the Chief Justice was the governor of Delta State, I know a lot of people that benefited. A lot of my friends that applied through Lands and Survey for land, they were allocated those lands. But then there is a time frame. If you don't develop it, the government will come and revoke the allocation to you. And that's how it is in Abuja. But Nyesom Wike has been accused that he's now reselling or reallocating those properties to his friends and family. That is the only
accusation.
It's an accusation.
Yes, and they have to be tested in the court.
It's an accusation like per se. So that's why I said Nyesom Wike is doing a good job at Abuja. I'm a regular of Abuja. I always fly from there as my international airport to Abuja. You know. So, and I see the development. I see the speed at which Abuja is, the face of Abuja is being
changing.
Is being changed by Nyesom Wike. He's doing a good job at Abuja, and even Abuja residents will tell you that he's doing a good job. But the area of him circumventing those true owners of those properties and relocating them or reassigning them to his friends and family, that is an abuse of office. If it is found to be true, it's abuse of office.
Okay, now let me go away from that to Akwa Ibom State. Before we go back to that, I want to ask, how appropriate is it for agents of government to come to a land which they purportedly own, though there's contestation that they own the land? They didn't own the land, but they said they saw people there, you know, encroaching on quote-unquote government lands, and then without any prior notice, without compensations, they come in and bring down the house with people there. But before we go to your answer, let's take a look at this video. These were live footages of some of the demolitions that took place in Akwa Ibom State, South Nigeria, particularly in a place called Ifa, Ikoropon, where people had built houses, aboriginal owners of the land, people indigenous of that community. Some of them had sold their land to visitors who also bought and built houses. And this place was a thick bush, but the landed properties in that area became more prized with the construction of one of Akwa Ibom's best roads, and everybody now wants land in that area, such that even the indigenes who had this land several years ago could sell just 1/4 of it, and from the money gained they could put up very good businesses and also other buildings where they presently stay. Now in these areas the government claimed it was theirs, and without prior notice and without compensations, they came in and brought down close to 50 houses, rendering 183 people homeless. And as a matter of fact, we have reports that a child from one of the families had died following being exposed to some elements, and the child had malaria while they were in the house before it came down and was exposed to external elements, environmental factors, climate and all of that. The child eventually died, with many others still in hospital following the rough manner in which the demolition team came with security agents and caused a lot of challenges. And hoodlums, of course, made a feast of the property that was collapsed in the rubble of the owners of these houses. This was done when many of them were not at home. Let's take a watch at this, and when we come back, we'll address some of these issues.
Property owners in Ifa Ikoropon, a suburb of Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, have cried out over the demolition of their houses, saying they have been rendered homeless without any compensation. They said their houses were demolished without any prior notice, with their personal belongings looted during the exercise. In the early hours of the 20th of December 2024, just 5 days to Christmas, over 50 persons comprising officials of the Akwa Ibom State Ministry of Lands, accompanied by armed soldiers and policemen, and 3 bulldozers stormed the Union Street area of Ifa Ikoropon, located close to the Ring Road 3 in the heart of Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, and demolished over 50 houses, which accommodated over 53 families. This action left over 183 people, including elderly men and women and children, homeless. And children narrate their ordeal and make passionate appeals to the governor of Akwa Ibom State and to all well-meaning citizens of the state to come to aid.
So the few things that were remaining inside, we were about to carry them, and they said no, that they will not allow them. When we told them to allow us to pack our things, they did not give us enough time to pack our things. We started hearing people shouting. We came out and were like, what happened? They said that they were about to demolish the house. So we were just like we stayed packing things to our neighbor's compound, stayed packing things. So the things that were remaining inside, when they came, the things that were remaining inside, we were not able to pack them. They did not give us enough time to pack them. So we were just packing. So the few things, the remaining things that were there, they demolished the house, like everything was inside. So these street boys came and packed them and ran away. My notebooks, my box, the clothes that was inside my box, my bag, everything were there. So when my mommy came to carry her box and her bags that were there, the enemy men threw tear gas on her, and the street boys beat her up and they rushed her to the hospital.
I went out. It was then I got call from many people again, calling me, Madam, where are you? Come home, come home, come home. What is up? I said, what is happening? That's when they tell me that people they are breaking houses, or they are breaking houses, or I should come, or they are breaking houses. I decided to run from where I was again. I came down. When I came down, I saw my 2 little kids trying to pull out 1 or 2 things from the house. They couldn't even carry anything. Oh, Jesus. Now I cannot remove anything because my husband is not around. My 2 boys are not around. Only this little one. We can't take anything, and the bulldozer is coming close to our house. I can't do it, and I don't want to hurt myself because of the bulldozer.
Well, so when my mommy came to carry her box and her bags that were there, the enemy men threw tear gas on her. You can see we are suffering, and we need house to stay, we need food to eat, clothes to wear, as in house to stay. There's nothing. We don't know where to stay. Like, no, see what I'm wearing. There's nothing, no clothes to wear, no food to eat, no water to even drink.
Please, government, please help me, help me. Anyhow you can help me, please. They should help me. Tell them to help me, please.
His Excellency Pastor Omo and Obasi, please give us house to stay. We don't have house to stay. We are just walking on the streets like as if we are street people.
That's a worrisome one. You could see the yelling, wailing, crying, bringing down of people's property and all of that. I was a victim. I retired from government. What I put together in 35 years, I found it go down in just 35 minutes. My children were at home. In fact, they were in the house. When the house was being brought down, they had to run out, and nothing was salvaged. We're waiting on government. But that's just by the way. I'll do my own job here and let the law courts and maybe the governor and the government do their own. Let's get back to my guest here. What do you make of what you've just seen or what you just heard about?
That is man's inhumanity to man. It's unacceptable. And I will advise the victims to protest to the government house, to partner with media houses, to show the world what is going on in Akwa Ibom State from the government, from the corrupt civil servants. Because cases like this are being carried out by corrupt civil servants that wants to reallocate those properties to themselves or to their friends or to enrich themselves for self-aggrandizement. You know, we have a lot of corrupt. You know, in Nigeria, one of the challenges we are having in this country is the corrupt practices from civil servants.
Yes, not most times not even politicians
are so corrupt that they are the ones that educate the politicians on how to be corrupt. A civil servant can convert a 4 million naira budget to 4 billion, and you can't trace it. They are going to perfect it, give reasons for it to be that way. So civil servants are the mentors of our politicians in Nigeria. Civil servants has contributed to the fall of Nigeria to where we are, the sabotaging of our system, that today we have a failed system in Nigeria. So what these victims should do, they should put up a petition to the independent ICPC, Corrupt Practices Agency. They should put up a petition to the EFCC to ensure that the claims of these civil servants, because initially the community already made it very clear that this portion of the land was not sold to the government.
They're in court even.
And now the government never came to say that maybe there is a facility they want to put there, the housing estate, or they just claim that it's for government, and they want to, according to the information we are getting, they say that they want to build a government estate. Of which you and I know that nothing like that is going to happen.
As a matter of fact, allocations have been done to some private individuals.
That is where the ICPC comes in. Because that is a corrupt practices. The governor, I believe the governor is a God-fearing governor.
Absolutely.
And he should do the needful to ensure that this allegation, like this man's humanity to man that just occurred at Akwa Ibom State, is addressed by these agencies that has the mandate and duty of care to ensure that justice is served.
All right, let's also tell you here that we do know that the civil servants play a very strong role in also guiding the political officers when they are there. And like you rightly pointed out, the civil servants play most of these, corrupt roles. Because I'm wondering why a land that has not been compensated has been allocated to certain individuals. The community leaders have been worried that their own community members and strangers who had come to buy land there have found people embarrassing them, saying that they have allocations from government and this is government land. Now, what do you make of all this? What is the procedure after the land has been marked out that they need this land? Could you just, for the essence of emphasis, so that we don't break human rights, laws or breach human rights, what should have actually been done in such circumstances like we watched there?
Do you know that in Delta State some years ago, where I think during Governor Okowa's first tenure, do you know there were cases where you will see a property, it has 5 CFO, it has 3 CFO.
A single property?
Yes. Here in Delta State. You now start asking yourself what is going on. And CFO is just one for 99 years. After 99 years, you renew your CFO. Because CFO comes from the governor of the state. So you find out that this was a corrupt practice. And when it was exposed to the then Governor Okowa, he made sure he dismissed the Commissioner for Lands and Survey, because it was found wanting that there was a conspiracy between him and some corrupt land grabbers, to hijack people's properties. And most times, these land grabbers, they are in conspiracy with the police. They work with the police here in Nigeria. Sincerely speaking,
that's
they will not come and say they are taking you to Abuja. Like, they will be stressing your life. Before you know it, some persons that don't want stress, they are going to leave the property for them. Unless maybe you are a fighter, that's when you can follow them up to the end. By the time they see that you are tough on them, they are going to leave you. If out of 10 persons they drag their land, let's say 2 were fighters, they are going to leave those 2 for those persons and
then they take the rest. That's a worrisome situation.
So what I'm saying now is that the governor of Akwa Ibom State, he should be hands-on at a time like this. He should hear the cry of his people. That was why they voted for him. He should give this a human face. He should find a way to compensate these individuals if really he has them at heart. And he should invite the ICPC and the EFCC to do a good investigation and make sure
sanitize the land administration system.
Yes, because it's also over there are corrupt civil servants that are there.
Absolutely.
That masterminded this evil act.
Yes, we must also let you know that Akwa Ibom State government is one of the few state governments in the country that are blazing the trail in the area of trying to sanitize its land administration systems, and I do hope the governor wills into that so that we can actually get that everything put through digital means, so that you won't have leakages and some civil servants smiling to the banks through some corrupt practices. It might also interest you to know that the governor of Akwa Ibom State is a pastor, and we know him to be a God-fearing man, and I know he's going to really do something. Don't forget that when we go back to our record books, we do know that in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, as amended to the best of my knowledge, Section 14, subsection 2B, clearly states there that it declares that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. And if this declaration is anything to go by, the security and welfare of the people should actually be seen as the paramount and sole role of government before any other thing. And of course, I do also know that the government swore to an oath, and in that oath, there is that segment that is in the Constitution where it says he pledges to uphold the Constitution, and of course without fear or favor, or without how is it put, ill will or whatever to any person, and I do know that with that the governor will be up and doing to ensure that justice is done, and Akwa Ibom State that used to be a peaceful state and is still a peaceful state will remain peaceful. And of course there should also be peace in Abuja. Let everybody go through the proper manner of the law, proper channel of the law. Don't take laws into your hands. Well, we'll go on this short break, and when we come back, we'll look into Africa and, of course, into the United States of America. Don't forget, there's a new sheriff in town. I'm talking about the President J. Trump. We'll be talking about that. Don't go away. It's still matters of the moment with me, Charles Bassey, and my guest will still be with me once again.
Matters arising. We don't just bring you the news. It's the news and the news behind the news. A sectorial analysis of stories from economy, politics, environment, education, agriculture, and all sectors of the social economy. Matters arising. Not just news, but news behind the news. Only on West Television.
Welcome back. It's good to have you back from that break. Right away, we'll be going to the Republic of Congo. Recently in Congo, we had some disturbing stories that 102 men were executed by the Congolese government in the last 2 weeks. More than 70 of them were said to be executed in a row. This according to the country's Justice Minister, Constance Mutamba. Now, the men aged between 18 and 35 were said to be armed robbers and urban bandits, locally known as Kulana. For those of us who have been reading wider, for those of us who may have traveled to the Republic of Congo, talking about the Democratic Republic of Congo, usually referred to as DR Congo, the issue of Kulanas, that's armed robbers, bandits, one chance and all those kind of things, was so rampant and becoming very worrisome. Tourists never go back with good stories, and it was damaging the image of that country. Now, we're told that 45 were killed in late December, and the remaining 57 were executed thereafter. And now, a flight of more than 70 from Kinshasa had arrived a city called Anenga, but the government hasn't commented on the status of the prisoners. And each time they move mass prisoners from one end to the other, it's for execution. Some of them haven't really boarded an aircraft before, but they're boarding it on their last trip before they go to the great beyond. Now, the Minister of Justice in that country, Constance Mutamba, who is overseeing the execution, said last week that the third batch will be executed. Now, so the first two have already undergone measure of execution by death penalty, so he said. But now, do you know that there are some pertinent questions to be asked? One of the questions we'll ask are, how efficient is the criminal justice system in that country? Is it so efficient to ensure that these people were actually criminals, and did they actually commit these offenses? Or we have some big men somewhere sponsoring them and going scot-free while the Talakawas are just the scapegoats? The second question is, what level of transparency do we have in the criminal justice system in that country? Talking about, the judiciary. The next question that comes to bear is, what about the issues of human rights observance and, of course, corruption? The big thieves go and bribes go through and they're left scot-free, while the young thieves end up being listed amongst those to be executed. Now, the next question we'll be asking, are these people sentenced to die for the crimes they actually committed? Or just the innocent and the poor victims of circumstances are the ones being executed? These are questions we would like to ask. Now, are possibilities of extrajudicial killings not being recorded or not being seen? Well, in all this, there could be possible fears that political pressure could lead to unjust convictions and arbitrary executions in that country. Now, the situation in DR Congo is complex and requires a multi-dimensional approach. Now, let's get back to my guest. You've heard that, and you've seen some of the videos of these young people who, if we had them properly taken care of, most of them would not have been in criminality. But here they are going to die. And the youth are the productive age of that economy. And look at, if you have 100 of them dying, another 47, and another 58 is about to go, another 57 about to go shortly. I'm wondering, you'll probably be wiping out people. Is that the best way to go? And why do you think this is actually happening?
Death sentence is a global practice. In as much as myself, I'm a human rights advocate and activist, I know one truth, that every country has its rules and regulations, it has its laws. Though when you come to the third world, you find out that our people don't even know their rights, just like the United States. Most Americans know their rights. They read their rights to you when you confront them. So in Africa, most of our people don't know their rights, and they don't even know when you violate their rights. So in case of this Congo, I found out something that these criminals that were executed, or alleged criminals that were executed, they were involved in all sorts of manner of armed robbery, murder, a lot of vices. They were involved in drugs,
urban banditry,
and they were funded by an American, a U.S. citizen, though Congo is an Asian. but he resides in America. So because it's like he has access to funds, so he came into the country and set up like a gang star, like a gang.
Perhaps to destabilize the government.
Yes, that was the goal.
Could that be the goal?
That was the goal, because why would you just go and set up like a gang or a cult that they are ensuring that there's no peace? They are violating the laws of the land. It doesn't make any sense. In as much as we are emotional about the execution, the American government, they execute when you violate, depending on the criminal justice that you violated. You go to Canada, it happens. There is death sentence in Canada. There is death sentence in China. And I believe what this current leadership of the Congo wants to do is to achieve what the Ecuador president achieved.
Through execution?
Yes, through execution and through imprisonment.
Yes, because Congo once upon a time, it ended death penalties.
Of course.
It came back and became a retention.
Congo has been unstable from the 70s.
Yes.
And the West are behind it. The United States of America, the French government, different countries that were involved in the Berlin 1884 conference that divided Africa like a piece of cake on the table. So you see, this Western world, these Europeans, they don't want Africa to be stable. That's why you see they create artificial crisis.
So you're suggesting there could be some Western influence in grooming this criminality in the Congo?
The Western influence affected the youths, because the youths were not driven into criminality. Because if the youths were stable, they were not going to play along with this American citizen that came back to the Congo.
But let me ask you, what is the government doing to better the lot of the people? Because if I'm not and I have a good economy, nobody will lure me into criminality.
Our government in Africa, they are not interested in our youths. They are not interested in our people. Even when you see them running some social investment programs, the right audience are not targeted. They just target the political youths. That, like, you must have a chairman or a reference or a referral that will refer you to the program. And I keep telling them, like here in Delta State, that it must be database driven, because people that benefit from let's say Delta State now for the past 16 years, they're still benefiting to date, because there's no database that will flag you that you benefited from the government. Because if it's database driven, biometrics, fingerprints, you see that when we give you in 2022, you cannot come back again in 2023, 2024, 2025 to benefit from the government. And by the time there's accountability, by the time there's transparency, the youths will now know that it's a one-time opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When you get this, you are not going to dispose it, because what our youth engage in, these political youths that benefit from the government, what they do is that when you hand them over the pack of the social investment program, they have a buyer already that are going to purchase this pack. And the next year, because they know that the next few months program, they are still going to benefit. So now, this issue of Congo, the youths were driven into criminality, courtesy of the government. Because like we all know, the permanent aim of a government of the world is the welfare and security of people.
Absolutely.
Now we have the social dimension of crime control. What did the government do to rehabilitate these young youths that were recruited by this American citizen, despite a first citizen of Congo before he became an American citizen? What did the government put on ground? Because the fact remains that there are some countries that their prison system is not functional in Europe because there's no crime. Places like Luxembourg, places like Sweden, they don't have active crime because the citizens, even you as not a citizen, you benefit. Look at Italians. Look at how they take care of our people that cross the sea into Italy. They grant you asylum. They take care of you. Look. What I'm saying now is that the social dimension of crime control, you don't focus on the architecture of security. You focus on how to empower the people, how to make them, and that will go a long way. It will go a long way. For instance, let's assume you're in Nigeria now, or you're in Delta State. You know the NNPC, the federal government NNPC just started functioning. Now, I keep telling them that they should expect pipeline vandalism and insecurity in the Warri region if the youth of the community doesn't have that sense of ownership, that sense of belonging, that sense of welfare from the NNPC. Because by the time the youth, those that finish secondary school are getting 100,000 naira alert every month ending, those that are university graduates that are yet to secure a job are getting 200,000 naira benefits. They are not going to, we cannot recruit them to the community
kind of
yes, because they know that they are every month. I know that I'm getting 200 to, why will I go and bust the pipeline that the money will come from?
That reminds me.
So the government needs to, African government needs to focus on the youth, because the youth, the future belongs to the hands of the youth.
African governments,
the elite in Africa, the elite in the government.
All right, focusing on the youth is very important, because when I look at the young people who are the bulk of those who were to be executed, are just a wasted generation. That's a sad one. And you talked about social security, and my guest has talked about making a proper social security and welfare for the people. And that brings me to the joke that used to come forth. They would say that the Niger Delta youth would ask, where is our schools? And then the officials of them would say, it's in the pipeline. Where is our hospital? It's in the pipeline. Where are the roads? It's in the pipeline. Where are the health facilities? It's in the pipeline. And when they waited for a long time and nothing was coming forth, they had a meeting and said, look, we must bust the pipelines. And that gave room to busting of pipelines and vandalism. Well, that's on the lighter note, but there's something very instructive in that statement there. And it's a clear call on government to rethink of other social ways, non-kinetic ways of fighting crime, rather than looking at it in a reactive manner, getting them together, herding them to prison, and perhaps in many instances without proper, justice systems being put in place, you discover that a lot many people, perhaps out of this 100 and something, there must be a couple of them who have been innocent that have also gone to the great beyond. That's you must agree with that.
They were driven into criminality, like I said earlier on, because the government failed in their duty of care.
I'm even talking about
provide welfare.
What crime they've been arrested for. Some of them are victims of circumstances.
That's what I'm saying.
Corruption and all of that.
Corruption, hunger,
in court,
lack of opportunities, lack of education. There are a lot of factors that could have driven them into the criminality, into gangsterism.
All right, we'll be going to the next report. But before we go to that, are you a proponent of the retention of death penalty? Because there's a global concern about retaining or keeping away death penalty. Amnesty International have been the forefront of this. What's your take, Justin?
It depends on the circumstances. And like I said, every country has its laws. And it's good when you know the law, you obey the law.
But there's something
like in Asian tigers, it's against the law for you to come in with drugs.
Of course.
As you are landing in any Asia tiger airport, I'm talking about Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, China, you will see it. That there is death. Say no to drugs. We've got you with drugs, is death penalty. So and they are going to warn you, even when they are giving you a visa, they will let you, they will caution you that we say no to. You cannot be telling such country that United Nations or Amnesty International is commending. In as much as we are human rights activists, if you know the law, obey the law. Prevention is better than cure.
All right, prevention is better than cure. That's something that is something to take home. All right, from here we now move to the United States of America. Of course, there's a new sheriff in town talking about President Donald Trump. Shortly after the last election that brought in Joe Biden, there were controversies he didn't see. In fact, people said it's like America is learning from Nigeria. For the first time, we had a politician who was saying, no, I no agree. And we had supporters who were saying, we no agree. And of course, he put up some green buttons and pressed it, and the supporters were moving and going viral. You remember, they were up to the Capitol and they were arrested, but that was history now. They served their sentence and they're out of prison now, most of them. But recently, the same Donald Trump won convincingly an election that brought him into office, and the whole world was watching. And there was a trembling when Donald Trump came, because he looked like coming with a very, very fiery, mouth with every pronouncement. I mean, in his first day in office, over 40-something executive orders. On his first day back in office, President Trump followed through his pledge to pardon those charged with participating in the January 6th attack at the U.S. Capitol. And don't forget, the U.S. Capitol is one of the sacred areas. You can imagine people just running into the Aso Rock Villa, to break in and all of that. And as sacred as the United States is in terms of their governance and their security systems, people run into the Capitol. And that was January 6th of that particular year. About 1,500 rioters, found themselves causing commotions Trumps, some security men paid very dearly. Injuries, some lost their lives and all of that. But the president has come to say he's giving them pardon even after they had served their sentences. In other words, they are no more ex-convicts, so to speak. Let's start from there. What do you think about this?
You see, President Trump is a man that I love so much. In that election that he lost, or that they made it look like he lost and announced Democrats as the winner, I even had to set money, to bet money. I lost money, good money. In fact, my friends call me Wrong Trump.
Yes, but I'm wrong then.
Yes, people started calling me Wrong Trump because of they found out that I love Trump. I campaigned for Trump. Even while in Nigeria, I was campaigning for President Trump. So you see, President Trump is a good man. He's a God-fearing man. He's a man that has morals. Look, everybody, every country has a right to protest. It was just that even here in Nigeria, till then some persons are still protesting that President Tinubu did not win the last election. You know, everybody has their own view.
Absolutely.
But I'm not of that view that he didn't win the last election. I'm not of that view. But then everybody has their own right to protest. Those Americans that President Trump just granted pardon for, they went to protest. But because of the Democrats were trying to use their own strength against them, they twisted it and converted it to a crime. You know, technically, you can twist any case if you are a lawyer in law. So now, you are not saying now that Trump was voted for convincingly. It was Democrats that even voted for Trump because they were disappointed in Joe Biden. Because at some point, Joe Biden was having health issue. He started having this schizophrenia that he can't recall. He forgets. He even signed a law to ban CNG. Then when the Speaker of the House of Reps went to see him, do you know that they made sure the White House caucus, they made sure that they prevented the House of Reps Speaker from going to have access to Joe Biden.
Why was this so?
Because they know that he was not of their clique. Because you know politics is clique, is cartel. Even as you are in PDP or you are in APC, there is still another APC inside APC.
Absolutely.
Inside PDP. So they knew that the House of Rep Speaker was not on their side. It was not in the clique. So the House of Rep Speaker of USA, when he met Biden, at some point they refused to give them privacy. Biden now subconsciously just told them that he wants to be alone with the Speaker, that everybody should leave the office. They left. So the Speaker now asked him, Mr. President, sir, why did you sign the ban of CNG? That you are trying to give Russia more strength. Because Russia are making sales, they are making more money. So now the president has said that he didn't sign it.
Despite signing it?
He now told him to wait. Let me go and print out what you signed, the executive order you gave. He said he went to one of the offices, they printed it out, showed it to him. He said they just brought something for him, they told him to sign that it's going to make the CNG better. He now said that he didn't know that he banned CNG.
So sorry, age was
not in control because of his health challenge. You know, when you are getting old, you have health challenge. But the problem now is that Joe Biden was supposed to go and take care of his health. He was not fit to be a president. Thank God this election, the Republicans won, President Trump won, and you've seen the reforms that he has been doing.
Very drastic reforms. We talk about those reforms.
He's doing
so that we don't drift away, what do you make of his pardoning of those people who broke into the Capitol at his instance?
Look, they are not just supposed to pardon them. They are supposed to be well financially compensated for.
Are you aware that his own vice president was not too happy with that decision?
That's President Trump.
Yes.
He's a traitor and he betrayed Trump. He was working against Trump.
How come Donald Trump?
He's not like this. My Pence worked against Trump.
How come he was picked by Trump as his running mate?
No, I'm talking about Mike Pence when Trump was president.
Okay, that's
what's his current.
Yeah, why did they make men's for them to now? I'm talking about his deputy.
The current deputy.
Yes.
That's current vice president.
Yes.
I don't have that information.
Yes.
But I know that Mike Pence
wasn't well at home with the
stand firm with Trump when they allege that Trump lost that previous election.
All right, let's leave it there. But there's a twist to this, and there's a funny twist to that presidential pardon. Now, one of the people who served the jail time for taking part in that U.S. Capitol riot 4 years ago has refused a pardon from President Donald Trump. Her name is Pamela Hamfield, an elderly woman who pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 60 days in prison for that offense. She said, well, she committed the offense. What she did was wrong, and she has served her term. She doesn't want any pardon. What do you make of that?
It's our choice. Life is a choice. So it's our choice. But President Trump did what he did for those that believe in him, for those that advocated for him, that protested that he won that election, and they went to the Capitol to protest.
All right, President Donald said that these people have already served, quoting him, these people have already served their prison and they have served them viciously. It is a disgusting prison. It's been horrible. It's inhumane. It's been a terrible, terrible thing. However, the move has drawn uneasy reactions from Republican politicians, even in his own party. Okay, the government's decision to apply that President Trump's decision to apply that pardon is also becoming controversial. All right, let's go to something else. We talked about his executive orders. Time is running out. One of the things he talked about was that from now on, we're going back to what it should be. American government will only know male and female. We know nothing about gay, transgender, and all of that. It's just male and female, and he was talking tough. And then he talked about the issues of immigrants. Before we talk about that, President Donald Trump was in a church, just a day after, one of his Thanksgiving. And then this preacher was, delivering a homily, and in her speech, she asked the president to have mercy. Please, these people are gay. Please have mercy. Allow them be. Immigrants who were born here and they should be citizens. Please don't sign that. Have mercy. The president was listening very carefully, but when it came to some area where they said no, allow the gay people to have their rights, his face changed and he looked at his vice and was like, what's he talking about? Well, let's watch this. When we come back, we'll talk about this.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and walk humbly with each other and our God for the good of all people in this nation and the world. Amen.
much.
What did you think of
What did you think of the service?
What did you think? Did you like it? Did you find it exciting? Not too exciting, was it? I didn't think it was a good service, no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
They can do much better.
Thank you, press. Inside, inside. Thank you, thank you.
All right, the president was asked there, how was the sermon? He asked the journalist back rhetorically, you too, how was the sermon? But for me, it was a good sermon. But he didn't like what he heard. That's Donald Trump for you, the hard man. What do you make of this?
I love President Trump. He's a great man, he's a good man. He's a man with morals. And all his decisions, I love all his decisions. I love the fact that
his executive orders.
Yes, I love that he wants everybody to go back to their country. Go back to your country. It's the best. When last did you see any Dubai indigene in Nigeria as a shoemaker or as a tailor? When last have you seen a Qatar indigene here in Nigeria? When last did you see any Swedish citizen? I mean, as a bus conductor or working in any motor in Nigeria? Because their economy and their country is doing very well. Everybody should go back to their country and fix their system. That is it. Fix your country. Let America be for Americans.
Finally,
let Africa be for Africans.
Just before we go, because time is not our friend, and the director is telling us that we have to go. What does the American president see under Trump portend for the global community and for Africa, and particularly for Nigeria?
Trump has no business with Nigeria. Trump is made it very clear.
But I think because of sugars here.
Make America great again. His goal is to focus on his own, on his people. He has even, look, President Trump said Americans no more tax. He did a lot of reform that he even set up external revenue services that he is going to now be taxing international communities. He will do from World Health Organization. He will do the climate change, the France climate change signatory, that America is a signatory agreement, that America is the US government is a signatory to. He will do a lot. He said no.
But it will have consequences.
Funding of the NATO.
It will have consequences.
Like you are going to pay for me to pay.
This will have consequences for the global community.
Look, America first. Because this one that America will set up a military barrack at Ghana, set up another one at Saudi Arabia, all those things Trump is not interested. Do you know that President Trump was, while he was doing his first tenure, he never shot one bullet. He was the first American president to step foot in the North Korea. President Trump is a great man. He's a great man.
And it's surprising because when the Republicans are there, it's when we see more of this war.
Trump has a different ideology. You know, he's a businessman. Trump has a different view about life and politics. And he's outspoken. He tells you his mind. He doesn't plan or have anything against you in his mind. And these are the best people you can ever have to do. People that you can do something with. Because he tells you his heart how it's supposed to be. And that is it.
All right, it's been a very interesting conversation, I must say, and lending with America will be one of the best ways to drop anchor here. We just want to thank you very much, One Box, for being part of this, and we do hope that you'll be with us again next time when we get to you, and also to thank our viewer for being part of this. We hope you enjoyed every bit of the news behind the news we've been trying to get your way. But just to let you know that next week we'll be coming up with some dicey news. Of course, Ekere Madu that was jailed in the United Kingdom, his wife is back. We'll be giving you details about these, the news behind the news. The news is that the wife is back, but we'll give you the news behind the news. How did she come back? What brought her back? How was she released? And all of that. This will be brought alongside many other interesting issues that we'll be looking at in the next week. Well, these are matters that keep arising, but when they arise, we'll not just bring you the news, we'll bring you the news behind the news. Well, I remain Charles Bassey, and I'll be your host next week, God willing. Be a good citizen. Let our paths cross again. Thanking you once again for watching. Until next week, God bless you.
Matters arising. We don't just bring you the news. It's the news and the news behind the news. A sectorial analysis of stories from economy, politics, environment, education, economy, agriculture, and all sectors of the social economy. Matters arising. Not just news, but news behind the news. Only on West Television.